Our next presenter this morning is the Reverend Alonzo Pruitt, who is the Chief of Chaplains for the Richmond City Jails. He's going to tell us a little bit about the prison ministry that he oversees, and in particular, how all of us can be engaged in working with inmates and ministering to prisons. Please welcome Alonzo Pruitt.
Good morning. It's a great blessing and privilege to be here, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this diocesan council. Well, as you see before you, a slide of our island home, this wonderful place where we all live. 7 billion of our brothers and sisters live here with us. 5% of the human family lives in what we're proud to call and serve the United States of America. 5% of all the people on the planet live in this country. And yet, almost 25% of all the people in the world who are locked up in the jails and prisons of the United States and America. We imprison and incarcerate people for all kinds of offenses for which they are not incarcerated in other countries. But more personally, think of it this way. A 35-year-old woman is arrested and brought to jail, and as a matter of fact, it happens to be that time of the month, and there aren't any sanitary supplies for her. And she has to walk down a long hall to get to the dining hall, and as she walks down this long hall in her stained jumpsuit, people with her who are also walking down this long hall are pointing at her and laughing at her and making fun of her. It's an immensely humiliating experience, and one I pray God you never have. Thanks to the loving efforts of people in the Diocese of Virginia and people in other places, we've been able to make it so that that situation has never again been repeated. It might seem like a small thing, and it is a probably small thing until it happens to you. Depending upon the expert or the study that you cite, between 67 and 71% of people who go to jail will be back in jail within 3 years. Our national recidivism rate, depending upon the authority you cite, is somewhere between 67 and 71% using a 3-year window. As the Chaplaincy Service of Virginia points out, 90% of people who go to jail get out of jail. They come back to our communities. They come back to our churches. If we don't work to love and change them while they're incarcerated, the likelihood is that they're going to be back in jail accomplishing no positive purpose. From St. Stephen's Heathsville to St. Stephen's Richmond, from St. Thomas Richmond to Calvary Hanover, Episcopalians all across the Diocese of Virginia have been wonderfully supportive of the men and women, the 22,000 men and women who go through the Richmond City Jail Now Justice Center every year. Without your support, without your prayers, without your donations of soap and toothpaste and things like that, lotion, without those kinds of things, without some 73 chaplains each month coming into the facility to lead prayer, to be supportive, to do pastoral counseling. I had a situation earlier this week where a young man's mother died, and he's not able to go to the wake or the funeral because in the history of incarceration, people often break out of jail while they're at a wake or a funeral. Or imagine 300 people surrounding 2 deputies and 1 person at a funeral saying, "Don't take him back," and it turns into a tug of war. So we arrange for private wakes depending upon the person's custody status. Thank God I was able to be there the day that he went to see his deceased loved one so that I could talk with him about those feelings, so I could talk with him about this situation making him better or bitter. We're very, very fortunate that we live in a community that has finally recognized that keeping people in inhuman conditions is not going to help them be better citizens. The old jail was built in 1964. It was built for a capacity of 852 people. We regularly had 1,500 people incarcerated, and some years ago we had 300 people a night sleeping on concrete floors, and they were only fed twice a day on Saturday and Sunday. You know, when I went away to Illinois State years ago, there was a deal between the town of Normal and the town of Bloomington and ISU and Illinois Wesleyan. The universities would only provide meals twice a day on Saturdays and Sundays because that meant that all of these students would be going to Dominick's and McDonald's and places like that to buy food, and it kind of helped the town's economy. Well, the men and women who were in the jail were not going to Dominick's and McDonald's on Saturday and Sunday, which meant that on any given Monday morning, you had about 300 people who had slept on the floor who were really quite literally hungry because they only had 2 meals over the weekend. And of course, these are not 5-star meals. The new Justice Center is a state-of-the-art facility. It's the newest jail. It's the newest facility of its kind in the United States of America today. 430,000 square feet, 6 stories tall, at a cost of $134 million. Now, that seems like a lot of money, and it is. But when you think about it, as someone said so wisely a long time ago, the kind of care that we extend to those who are weakest among us makes a statement about our level of civilization. And Jesus said what? What you do to the least of these, my sisters and brothers, you do to me. We're very blessed, as a matter of fact, that all 3 of the bishops in Virginia, that is, our diocesan bishop, our bishop suffragan, and our assistant bishop, have spent time at the Richmond City Jail. We're very blessed that we have the support of Bishop Shannon, who, as you know, or you may recall, as a parish priest exercised a ministry at Parchment Penitentiary in Mississippi. Those of you who've talked to anybody who's been to Parchment will tell you that it is the front door of hell. Thanks be to God, we have the kind of Episcopal support which makes it possible for us to begin to try and love and change people, an individual at a time. Bishop Susan comes every month to preach and say Mass with residents of the jail, and she does so in a way that causes them to feel as though they are loved, they are in a community, they are not forgotten. Again, those of us who regularly experience the blessing of being able to get up in the morning and take a shower, or get up in the morning and brush our teeth, lose sight of the fact that not everybody has that gift and privilege. Actually, all of these institutions are horribly misnamed. Jails and prisons are not correctional facilities because they don't correct and change people. We take people who have exhibited bad behavior and we put them in with people who are feeling very bad, and really they learn to become worse than they were when they came in, unless there's some type of intervention which sparks the fire of God's love within them. Actually, correctional institutions are families, schools, churches, government agencies, block clubs, and neighborhoods associations, because these are the institutions that really have the power to correct and change people. Jails and prisons take people whose bad behavior results in their being there. We make them feel bad about who they are. We label them because of the mistake they've made. And then as a result of that, we expose them to other people whose behavior is even worse. And then we send them out in a situation where they're less likely to be employed and less likely to engage in the kind of positive change that would benefit us all. My favorite example in this regard has to do with individuals who don't pay child support. Of course, everybody should pay child support. That's not the question. But if we lock somebody up for not paying child support, what we really get is somebody who's still not paying child support, and you and I are spending $20,000 a year to keep them locked up. The child isn't benefiting. The mother of the child is not benefiting, and this person is less likely to be able to get a job after we've locked them up because they fell behind in their responsibilities. We know that every day in America, 4 women die from domestic violence. That's not a debatable figure. And so we have to make the decision, as so many of you have, to try and love and change people while they're incarcerated so that when they come back out among us, they're able to do something positive. So if you want to get involved in this, a little thing like a postage stamp, making it possible for somebody to write a loved one, a little thing like a bar of soap, a little thing like a toothpaste, a great thing like a prayer, all of these things help change people. Thank you, and God bless you.